The slayer accidentally offended a few bloodthirsty tourists in the audience, by implying she wanted to chop their heads off, Sunnyvale style. Sarah Michelle Gellar's 2002 Saturday Night Live monologue was hilarious, in the most Buffy the Vampire Slayer way. When the actress hosted for her third time on October 12, 2002, she began her SNL monologue with a quick rundown of what she'd been up to. She just married I Know What You Did Last Summer co-star Freddie Prinze Jr. a month earlier, following the June 2002 release of their film Scooby-Doo. Gellar and Prinze starred as Daphne and Fred in the live-action movie written by future Superman director James Gunn, and she shared that she'd also just recorded my own album. This was a bit, as she absolutely had not. Acoustic guitar in hand, Gellar prepared to perform a song from said album, after a shout-out to her starring role on Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which had just returned for Season 7. Sarah Michelle Gellar's SNL monologue offended the vampires in the audience. "I wrote all the songs myself. And I gotta say, recording this album was almost as rewarding as ramming a stake through the heart of a vampire," Gellar claimed with a strum. "But not quite as much fun as chopping their heads off." Before she could sing a note, the camera cut to three vampire tourists, played by Rachel Dratch, Chris Kattan, and Amy Poehler, sitting in the audience, and they were not happy. In fact, they were ready to gather up their NBC store shopping bags and get out of there while Gellar sputtered that she didn't know there would be vampires in the audience. "Yeah, well, we only got in 'cause of the rain, Daddy Vampire," Kattan snapped. "We didn't know you were hosting. I'm just getting a little sick of the way vampires are portrayed in the media. It's a little insulting," he told Gellar. "But Daddy, I wanted to bite the Jimmy Fallon," said Baby Vampire, Poehler. "I know, baby," Daddy Vampire said. "We all wanted to bite the Jimmy Fallon, but this nice lady over here, she wants to take a wooden stake and drive it through your heart, so I guess bedtime comes a little early tonight. We're good people, you know? We're honest people. I came to this country because I wanted to make an honest living. That, and turn people into vampires, but I guess we still got a long way to go." Mommy Vampire, Dratch, pointed out that she wanted to go to the Caroline Rhea Show, which ran on NBC from 2002 to 2003, but her husband angrily reminded her that it tapes in the daytime. It was October 12, 2002, and Studio 8H was buzzing with more than the usual Saturday Night Live chaos. Sarah Michelle Gellar, at the height of her Buffy the Vampire Slayer fame, stepped out from behind the iconic stage doors to a roaring audience. She beamed her signature bright smile, soaking up the applause that echoed off the studio walls. She looked stunning in a simple black dress, sharp, confident, the perfect Slayer stance even when she wasn't wielding a wooden stake. She waved to the cheering crowd, gave a playful curtsy, then stepped up to the mic. "Thank you. Thank you so much," Sarah began, her voice cutting through the noise. "Wow. It's so amazing to be back hosting Saturday Night Live again. This is my second time hosting, which means either Lorne really loves me or there are no other vampire slayers available tonight." The audience laughed warmly. She glanced to her left and right, clearly at ease. "I love being here. I love New York. And you know what? I love vampires. Well," she stopped herself with an overdone cringe, "I love slaying them, obviously." The crowd laughed louder this time. But just as Sarah was about to launch into her next bit, a story about a prank David Boreanaz once pulled on set, there was an odd cough from the audience. She paused, peering through the bright stage lights. Ahem, a deep, throaty voice grumbled from somewhere in the back rows. "Do you really, though?" Sarah froze, the smile faltering just a hair. Excuse me?" The audience tittered. This wasn't part of the monologue, was it? A man in a long trench coat and suspiciously pale makeup stood up among the seated crowd. His eyes glowed an unnatural shade of yellow under the studio lights. "Yeah, excuse you, Buffy," he sneered. "You think it's fun, huh? Just slaying vampires like we're all disposable?" Sarah squinted. "Wait, are you a vampire?" A second figure stood up next to him, this one wearing a faded velvet waistcoat and sporting fangs that would have made any Halloween store jealous. "Darn right," the second vampire snapped, pointing a gnarled finger at her. "You've ruined our nightlife for years." The crowd was roaring with laughter now, half convinced this was an elaborate bit. Sarah played along, crossing her arms. Okay. So let me get this straight, you guys bought SNL tickets just to heckle me? In person?" "Of course," shouted the first vampire. "Do you know how hard it is to get tickets to this show? We had to wait in line for hours. You ever seen a vampire standing in the daylight, huh? Not pretty." Yeah. Chimed in the second. I'm peeling like a sunburned tomato under this hat. Sarah leaned over the stage edge, her Slayer instincts, comedic instincts, kicking in. All right. So, what exactly is your problem with me? Our problem, the first vampire said dramatically, placing a hand on his heart, is that every time we go out for a nice night of mild terror and moderate bloodsucking, boom. There you are, staking us, quipping, and making sure we never get to finish our drinks. The second vampire sniffled. My cousin Larry was just about to finish a delicious O-negative when you staked him in season 3. He had dreams, Buffy. Dreams. The audience burst into a mix of laughter and mock sympathetic HWs. Sarah chuckled, rolling her eyes. Look, I'm sorry about Larry. But in my defense, he was evil. And also, not real. The vampires gasped in mock horror. Not real? The second one shrieked. Do we look fake to you? The first one waved a plastic bag for emphasis. We even brought snacks. He pulled out a juice box labeled Type Plus. He poked the straw in dramatically and slurped. Sarah tried not to break. Well, you're very committed to your diet. Hey, we're on a budget, the second vampire shrugged. Do you know how much fresh blood costs in Manhattan? You think rent is bad? Sarah composed herself, letting the laughter die down. Okay, I get it. So what would you like me to do? Retire? Switch careers? Maybe open a vampire-friendly coffee shop? The vampires exchanged a glance, clearly tempted. Actually. The first one mused. Could you maybe star in a show where you befriend vampires instead of killing them? Like, Buffy the Vampire Therapist? Sarah cocked her head thoughtfully. So instead of fighting them, I'd just sit in a circle and talk about feelings with you guys? Yes. They chorused eagerly. Right. And how would that go? She asked, planting her hands on her hips. The vampires immediately fell into an improv therapy session. The first one flopped into an imaginary chair, sighing dramatically. Well, Buffy. My father never hugged me. The second one sniffled again. And my coffin's too small. I feel so boxed in. Sarah feigned deep concern, nodding. I see. And how does that make you feel? Angry, they yelled in unison. And hungry. She raised an eyebrow. Well, good luck with that. Because this Slayer has zero plans to retire anytime soon. The audience erupted in cheers. The vampires booed dramatically. Sarah leaned into the mic, conspiratorial. Don't worry, everyone. They're not real vampires. They're just members of the SNL cast in bad makeup. Right, guys? The stage lights popped on, revealing the two vampires as none other than Seth Meyers and Will Forte. They tore off their fangs and hats, bowing dramatically to the hooting crowd. Will pretended to sob. I was gonna get a spin-off. Buffy vs. Will the emo vampire. Sarah laughed, shaking her head. Sorry, guys. There's only room for one undead drama queen on the WB, I mean the CW now. She took a breath, the room still roaring. Anyway, we've got a great show for you tonight. We've got Faith Hill here. So stick around, we'll be right back. The audience roared louder than any vampire's hiss. As the band struck up the familiar interlude, Sarah shot one last look at her hecklers. Nice try, boys, she mouthed, giving a playful stake stab motion. Seth and Will cowered in unison, fangs back in place, ready to vanish into the shadows of sketch comedy lore. The Slayer had won again, this time with laughter, not a stake, and Studio 8H knew it had witnessed a monologue worth biting into.